Hi guys, and welcome back to another edition of Back to School. My name is Abba Edziba. Now today we're going to get stuck back into some algebra, but today we're going to look at how to factorize expressions. Now, I hope you've seen the previous videos. If not, pause this video now, go and check the other ones on my channel and look at Introduction to Algebra and grouping like terms. It's very important we understand how terms work together, what it means to multiply terms, and how we get our expressions built up so that you can understand how to factorize. Right, so I'm going to write out an expression for you guys, and I'm going to make it pretty basic so that we can understand the fundamentals. 2x plus 6y. Now, factorization simply means putting into brackets. So the first thing we need to do is identify times tables that could have been used to make up the numbers in our expression. Now, 2 and 6, what times table do they both fall into? Well, it's the 2 times table. What does that mean for us? Simply, it means that 2 is a factor of both. Now, remember I said we're doing factorization. Factors are numbers that go into other numbers. So 2 goes into 2 and 2 goes into 6. Okay, so what we would now do is the common factor between these two is the number 2. 2 goes into 2 how many times? 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 6, like I said, 3 times. Now, the smallest amount of times that 2 can go into both of these is once. So our common factor is 2. Now, I really should have written that in another colour, but never fear, there is purple here. So with 2, we're going to put 2 outside of the brackets. Now we need to look at our unknowns. Our unknowns are anything such as x, y, z, p, t, whatever letter they like to use to represent another number. So here we've got an x and here we've got a y. In both parts of this expression, we have 2 different unknowns. Now that's very, very important to note when we are factorizing. If our unknowns are different, then they can't go outside of the brackets. They will remain inside the brackets. So it's very key that you understand this concept. In factorization of expressions, you can only put things that are common outside of the brackets. And so far, we've only got the number 2. So x and y are different. If you understand the concept that I used in my introduction to algebra, where I said x was a pair of, I think, 97s and y was a pair of Yeezys in terms of trainers, then you would understand that these two definitely are not alike. So let's create our brackets. Because we cannot take a common thing and put it outside, we now ask ourselves this question: what do we multiply by 2 to give us this part of the expression, 2x? Well, 2 multiplied by x gives us 2x. So x is the first thing in the brackets. We have got a function here, which is plus, so that is going to remain. And now we have got this 6y. So we have to take this 2 and ask ourselves, what do we multiply by 2 to give us 6y? Let's break it down into 2 steps. If we look at the numbers, what do you multiply by 2 to give you 6? 3. So 3 is going to go here. And after we've got that, what do we now need to multiply by to get this 6y? We need to multiply by y. It's the unknown. That's what we multiply by. And guess what? We have just factorized. So we have put this into brackets. Our 2x plus 6y is equal to 2 bracket x plus 3y. Now, let's try another example. Right, I'm back, fresh piece of glass. Let's get cracking. How would we factorize an expression that is a little bit more complicated? I'm going to start with my tablet pen. Let's make it a little bit more interesting. If I had an expression that had 3x squared plus 9x, what would I do here? Well, same process. First things first, we need to look at the numbers included in our expression. So numbers we have got here, 3 and 9. Think about your times tables. What times table do both of these numbers fall into? Well, 3 and 9 are both in the 3 times table. Remember, it has to be applicable for both. It can't be the 9 times table because 3 is not an answer in the 9 times table. So 3 and 9 are both in the 9 times table as answers. So how many times does 3 go into 3? It goes in once. How many times does 3 go into 9? We can put 3 into 9 3 times. 3 plus 3 plus 3. So our common number outside of our brackets so far is 3. Now let's look at our unknowns. I'm going to take my green pen here. You would notice that we have got x squared and we have got x. Now, what does x squared mean? It simply means we have got x times by x. And x here is 1x. So what is common between the two? An x. We have 2 x's multiplied together here, but we have got 1x in this part of the expression. Now, if you want to think about this a little bit more simplistically, if we want to think about unknowns, what is common about the two? I'm going to go back to my examples of using trainers. X squared and x is like me saying that I have got a pair of Air Forces and I've got a pair of 97s. They are both the Nike brand, but they are both not exactly the same model. So what then do we have? We still have Nikes. That's the common thing about them. And what is a Nike? Is basically the X, and then we've got other examples of them. So guess what we are going to put outside the brackets? The common factor of it, which is X. Now, we need to ask ourselves, 3x. What do you multiply 3x by to give you 3x squared? Well, we have got one missing x here, haven't we? If we multiply x by x, we get x squared, like up here. So the thing that is missing from this 3x to give us 3x squared is multiplied by another x, and that is going to go inside the bracket. We need to look at our function that we've got here, which is still a plus. So we're going to put a plus here. And now we're going to look at the 9x. I've got 3x. What do I multiply by 3x to give me 9x? So this is like saying I have got 9 lots of 97s. I've got 3 lots of 97s. If I want to get 9 lots of 97s, what do I need to multiply it by? 3. Okay, I don't need to multiply it by another x, just by 3. So I am going to complete this bracket by putting in the number 3. 3 times by 3 gives me 9, and times by x gives me 9x. Well, that's it, guys. We have successfully factorized 3x squared plus 9x with this. So what is my challenge for you? Try and practice some examples of your own. One of the things I always encourage my students to do is make up examples for yourselves so that you can try as much as possible to practice the skills that you have built up. Remember these key points, that if you see an x squared and an x, the common factor if you break it down, is going to be the least amount of x's you find in both. They're related, but they're not the same. And always take out the numbers first. Now, I have used all my examples with a plus sign. You could have a minus sign included there as well. And you can even have expressions that are longer. Now, watch for my follow-up video to this, where I'll show you how to do some slightly more challenging factorization questions, especially for those of you that tend to do the higher tier qualification. Until next time, guys, take care.